What's in a name? Does a rose by any other name smell as sweet? Look, don't worry, I'm not going to stand here quoting Shakespeare the whole time. But the question of what's in a name is pertinent when it comes to this car. It's called the Subaru Crosstrek, and it replaces the XV, which of course began life as the Impreza XV. But whatever Subaru calls it, it's an important car. It's its competitor to the Mazda CX-30, Hyundai Kona, and Toyota Corolla Cross. So it's got to be right. So let's put it through its paces and see if it can live up to its popular predecessors. So let's start with design, because despite the new name, the Crosstrek looks very similar to the XV it replaces, and that's no mistake. That's very much a Subaru trait. They prefer subtle evolution to dramatic change. That means every element of the Crosstrek is different. If you look at the details, everything has pretty much changed, but it's all quite similar to what came before it on the XV. And that's not a criticism, that's very much part of Subaru's if it ain't broke, don't fix it philosophy that has made it one of the most popular brands in the country. And certainly with the Crosstrek replacing XV, maintaining that familiar look is going to help with such a big name change. Subaru has also stuck to a familiar formula when it comes to the Crosstrek lineup, with a very similar offering to the outgoing XV. That means two powertrain choices, a 2-litre flat-4 petrol engine and the e-Boxer hybrid, and just 3 trim levels, all designated with a single letter, L, R and S. However, like so many models in recent years, prices have risen significantly. The entry price of the Crosstrek range is $1,800 more than where the XV ended up. The Crosstrek 2.0L begins the range at $34,990 and it stretches to $45,090 for the Hybrid S. You can see the rest of the prices on the screen. While a mid-30k starting price does put it behind some of its small SUV rivals, Subaru has opted for a high level of standard equipment, with even the entry-grade 2.0L loaded with plenty of gear. This includes dual-zone climate control, a tablet-style 11.6-inch infotainment touchscreen, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, a wireless smartphone charging pad, a 6-speaker stereo, and Subaru's now famous EyeSight suite of safety systems, but we'll explore that in more detail later. Stepping up to the 2.0R adds larger alloy wheels, 18 inches instead of 17s, a 2-mode xDrive all-wheel drive off-road system, premium cloth trim, and power adjustable driver's seat. By the time you get to the range-topping S models, the Crosstrek is equipped with leather-accented upholstery, satellite navigation, a sunroof, and a 10-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. Now let's talk practicality and what you find when you jump inside the new Crosstrek. In here, we get Subaru's typical, good quality look and feel. There's some really nice materials, a good array of different materials across the range that give it lend it an air of quality and that sort of premium feel that Subaru is known for. The big wow factor though is the new infotainment system. You've got this tablet style display that we've already seen in the Impreza, but it runs quite smoothly on its own. But you've also got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that are wirelessly integrated, and you've got a wireless charging pad down the bottom here. So it makes life simple, and that's a big deal in this day and age. You can just pop your phone in when you jump in the car, completely hands-free, all nice and safe and legal, and it makes a big difference, I think. But Subaru also does the little things well. We've got good small item storage like cup holders, we've got a lidded center console box, we've got nice deep door pockets. So overall, the interior, they've done a really good job in the practical sense. The other thing to highlight are the seats. Subaru has made a really big deal of the ride comfort, and a big part of that is all about your pelvis. They wanted to really focus on making sure the occupants feel supported and comfortable, because if your pelvis is not in the right spot, your head and your neck are going to shake around, you're going to feel more uncomfortable. So they have delivered these, they're actually bolted into the car differently, so they're nice and stable, but they actually are genuinely comfortable seats. We've spent a lot of time behind the wheel, and even after a full day, they're actually genuinely, it's a nice, comfortable car to get in and out of. So overall, the front seat is well catered for. As for the back, well, let's go take a look. Well, space is actually pretty generous. I'm about 6 foot, and as you can see, I've got enough headroom. There's just enough leg and knee room to feel relatively comfortable in the back. So you can certainly take 4 adults. We've got a couple of cup holders in the center armrest. We've got a couple of USB chargers in the center console. The door pockets are a little bit smaller than what you get in the front, but what is noticeably absent are air conditioning vents. It's something Subaru has often done is miss out on air vents down here, which may seem like a small detail, but they make a big difference, particularly in the Australian summer. But speaking of small details, there's actually a really nice touch on the door sills at the rear here. When you jump in, they've actually integrated some of that Crosstrek logo just into the moulding, which is, again, it's a small detail, but it's one of those details that makes a big difference in the overall feeling of the car. The boot has decent capacity for this size of SUV, if not class leading at 291 litres for the petrol models, but with a high, flat floor that makes it easy to load. Somewhat strangely, for a car that Subaru sells on its rugged image, the Crosstrek is fitted with a temporary spare tyre. So if you do head off sealed roads and strike it flat, you may find yourself in a bit of bother. Now, for more details on the Subaru Crosstrek, make sure you read my in-depth written review on carsguide.com.au. Now, Subaru's subtle evolution from XV to Crosstrek isn't just surface level, it extends to what's under the bonnet. This new model gets a very familiar 2-litre flat-4 petrol engine paired with a continuously variable transmission with 8 steps. It makes an adequate 115 kilowatts of power and 196 Nm of torque. The hybrid uses the same engine but adds mild hybrid support to improve fuel economy but not performance, with it rated at 110 kilowatts and 196 Nm. The hybrid also gets a CVT, but it has 7 steps instead. Both engines send power to all 4 wheels via Subaru's trademark permanent all-wheel drive, but the powertrain is arguably the weakest link in the Crosstrek's armour, as we'll discuss shortly. As for fuel efficiency of the Crosstrek, this is one area where Subaru's if it ain't broke don't fix it philosophy may actually need some tinkering. That's not to say it's broken, but the petrol engine's fuel economy of 7.2 litres per 100 Ks and the hybrid's official figure of 6.5 litres per 100 Ks does leave it behind the competition, especially the hybrid, which is more than 2 litres per 100 Ks thirstier than the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid, which uses just a claimed 4.4 litres. In the real world, we saw a return of 8 litres per 100 Ks on the car's trip computer for our test drive, and that included some urban and freeway driving, plus a lot of open road running, and even some off-road time. So it's actually a pretty good return given the conditions. Okay, so let's talk about how the Crosstrek drives. Now, Subaru Australia has only given us a chance to sample the 2-litre models. The hybrid isn't available yet, but don't worry, we'll get to that soon enough, so stay tuned to carsguide.com.au and you'll get a review of the Crosstrek hybrid in the not too distant future, I'm sure. In terms of how the 2-litre performs, well, the term adequate is probably the best way to describe the engine. You wouldn't call this gutless, you wouldn't call it powerful. It really does have just enough performance. Really, around town, it's nice enough. That sort of 0 to 60 performance is pretty good. Where it struggles is sort of above 60, 70 kilometers an hour. When if you need to accelerate hard, you'll find yourself that because it's got that CVT, it does feel like it labors at times because it doesn't have less than 200 Newton meters of torque. It doesn't have a whole bunch of pulling power. So it does the job without necessarily wowing you. Which is a shame because this is a vehicle, a platform, that feels like it could take a bit more power. It really could, it's actually quite impressive in the way it drives. Subaru, to their credit, have let us up, take it onto some pretty average roads on this launch program. And with, those kind of back roads, the patchwork quilt of roads and tarmac that, really European cars that are more stiffly sprung tend to struggle on. The Crosstrek feels quite compliant and well balanced. We also did take it off-road. Now, not the kind of off-road that, say, a Land Cruiser wouldn't just waltz over, but certainly the kind of road that would stop most of the Crosstrek's rivals in their tracks. Now, is every Crosstrek owner going to want to go and take it deep into the bush? Probably not, but it does really speak to the sense of adventure that the Crosstrek is offering. It is worth noting, though, that the base model doesn't get the X-mode all-wheel drive system, which we did use when we were taking it off-road, and it did help at times to really get over some of the tougher obstacles. Safety is obviously something all car companies take very seriously, but for Subaru it's a particular point of pride, which is why its EyeSight suite of active safety features are available across the range. Now, not every model gets every piece of equipment. The base model does miss out on a few pieces, but it does get the key functionality. So, as a driver, you can be alerted if you're, say, wandering out of the lane, or if you take your eyes off the road for too long. Or even if it feels that it can detect a collision. Those key pieces of information that can potentially save your life are all there. And importantly, and this is important because not all systems, so many cars have those type of systems these days, but they're often not well calibrated, and that means they can be irritating to the point of just wanting to switch them off, which ultimately spoils the whole purpose of having them. So Subaru has done a really good job of not only offering these systems, but also integrating them well into the car. Ownership credentials for the Crosstrek are one of the reasons Subaru has attracted a large and loyal following. The Crosstrek is covered by the brand's usual 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is normal for the industry these days, but it does fall short of Mitsubishi's 10 years, as well as MG, Haval, Skoda and Kia, which offer 7 years of coverage. Service intervals are every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres and covered by Subaru's 5-year cap price servicing plan. Over that 5-year span, you'll end up paying just over $2,373. The Subaru Crosstrek may not be the most powerful, the most fuel efficient, or the most affordable small SUV you can buy. And certainly if you didn't like the XV, well, Subaru hasn't changed enough here to make you want to rush out and buy one. But the Crosstrek is one of those cars that is greater than the sum of its parts. It's spacious, it's well equipped, it's pleasant to drive, and it has got some genuine off-road capability. It may be a new name, but the Crosstrek can carry on the legacy left by the XV. Now, for less Shakespeare and more car news, reviews and videos, make sure you check out carsguide.com.au.